Welcome back, Eddie Radosevich. George Stoia here. The goalposts are going to stay in place. There wasn't an upset tonight. Oklahoma wins 51-3, and some good, some bad, some kind of in between. Let's start with the good here on the Instant Reaction. Welcome back to the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. And George, let's start defensively. Obviously, 6 turnovers, first the most that they've had in a single game since, what was it, 2003 OU Texas. I think a game that a lot of people out there remember. This looked like a really good defense tonight.
Yeah, they were awesome. I mean, they were
I kind of left you just hanging there. Yeah. They were pretty damn good, though.
Oh, I mean, they were as advertised, right? They should have probably had a shutout. Gave up a couple big plays here, but rotated a lot of guys. A lot of guys got to see some action. I thought Grayson Halton was fantastic. Yeah. Clearly one of their best interior pass rushers. I think they ended up getting 5 or 6 sacks tonight. No, Marcus Strong.
Marcus Strong had a couple back-to-back in the fourth quarter.
So you love to see that. A lot of good rotation. I thought at linebacker they played really well. They tackled really well. Kendall Dolby was just all over the field. I thought he was sensational tonight for Oklahoma. You look at the corner spot, Kenai Walker, as well as Des Malone getting the start tonight. I think that was a product, Brent talked afterwards, and we'll get into injuries here in a second. Gentry Williams did see the field tonight, but he's a little bit banged up, so I think they limited him tonight. Sounds like Woody Washington's a little banged up. Could have played again. I think it's one of those situations, like we said leading up to the game, have a couple guys that you're like, we don't really need to play him against Temple.
Right.
Let's not push it. Eli Bowen, we didn't get to see him as well, but I thought the secondary played well. Robert Spears-Jennings just hitting dudes. Peyton Bowen was really good. Billy Bowman. Yeah, the defense was phenomenal. I would say the defense wasn't really the story of the night, Eddie.
Yeah, sure.
We got to talk to Zach Alley, which was great for the first time, but yeah, the defense was as good as we thought it would be.
Oklahoma's going to have better competition coming up. Obviously, even next week, I think, with Houston coming to town, Tulane in 2 weeks, and then obviously Tennessee coming up on September 21st. Let's talk about the bad. Offensively, it wasn't just terrible. I mean, as Brent noted after the game, they score on 6 of their first 8 possessions. There's just a little bit of, not necessarily confusion. We've been saying it throughout the preseason. Oklahoma needs to get healthy on the offensive line. Branson Hickman goes down on the first drive, and I think everybody kind of went, oh, shit.
Yep.
Garen Hatchett moves over. What'd you think of just in terms of the rotations, how they played? I know that obviously we'll have to go back and watch a lot of the game, but it just seemed like there was not a whole lot of easy plays that came to Oklahoma, especially in the run game early.
It's interesting because the starting unit was not one that I anticipated. It was started out with Sexton at left tackle, Tarquin at right tackle, Hatchett at left guard, and then obviously Branson Hickman at center, Fabechi at right guard. And that unit, they moved the ball easily. And some of that was, Jackson hitting Farouk, who, we probably should have led with Farouk.
Yeah.
He broke his foot tonight. He'll be out 6 to 8 weeks is what Brent said. We'll see if he actually makes it back this season. I was just thinking about it out loud. By the time he's able to get back, he might be prepping for the NFL. Is he going to be able to really have that same speed and same dynamic ability that we've seen from him in the past? And so that's a huge blow. But
it's just brutal for him as well, coming off the broken foot during the spring. You think everything's good?
It's the same foot. And so that it just sucks for him. And then you add that on top of losing a guy like Jaden Gibson during fall camp. And it's like, man, that wide receiver room that we were talking about all offseason, about how great it was and how deep it was, you lose 2 of your probably top 4 guys, in the matter of a month.
It's kind of the tale of an Oklahoma football position that everybody talks about during the preseason. They're loaded there. You don't have to worry about it. You can sustain one injury, and then all of a sudden the Jalil Farouk news tonight.
Yeah, it sucks, man. And now all of a sudden you've got to look at Andrel Anthony and say, can he get back? It's clear he's not. He's easing his way into it. I don't think anybody thought he was going to be 100% right off the bat, but they need him to be healthy. They need him to be a dude because they just don't have the bodies right now. I think Nick Anderson's really close to being back. He didn't suit up tonight. We'll see if he gives it a go next week. I think it's a quad injury for him, so those can kind of take some time, but they need to get him back. Deion Burks was a phenomenal tonight, but he can't do it all, right? So you're going to need a Jaquez Petaway, who we didn't really see a whole lot of tonight. Maybe a Zion Kearney. We saw Raggins out there. I know they really like his speed. Brennan Thompson got a little nicked up tonight. I think he's fine. He could have come back into the game, but didn't. So you're talking about a group that all of a sudden you don't have the depth and experience that you once did. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have some young guys that can eventually emerge, but it might take some time, and that's the tough pill to swallow, I think, tonight for Oklahoma fans.
Let's go back to the offensive line. I know that there's not a whole lot of answers that are going to be, I think, made here during the next couple weeks, but I think that you do see that September 21st matchup with Tennessee coming up on the radar. It's like the clock's ticking. They got to be able to figure this thing out.
Here's the issue. I think it starts at right tackle. I thought Garen Hatchett actually didn't do a terrible job at center. I thought he was pretty solid there. Look, he's not going to move a bunch of guys off the ball, but you know what you're going to get from him snap to snap. There's a reason he started at left guard, and they trust him at center. I think that he's a good part of this offensive line. That right tackle spot was brutal, man. When they had to move Tarquin over to left tackle because of the injury to Hickman, and then obviously Sexton moved back down to left guard, they had to bring in Spencer Brown. Spencer Brown just wasn't good enough. Flat out was not good enough on the offensive line tonight. Can he figure it out in the future? I don't know. I will say the positive news is that Brent Venable said Jake Taylor will be back next week. We all know he had a great fall camp. He was somebody that I've said from the start, if he's healthy, he's their starting right tackle. I still wonder how healthy is he. And I said it earlier during the game that if it comes down to this, I think Jacob Sexton maybe needs to bump out to either right tackle or left tackle, Tarquin at the other one, because I think those are probably your two best tackles right now. Maybe you play Heath Ozida or Hatchett. You need Hickman to get healthy, which he has a high ankle sprain from what I understand, which is usually, Eddie, that's a 3 to 4 to 5 week injury.
Sometimes they say, breaking it would be almost a better option than the high ankle sprain that does take time.
And I guess he's had ankle issues in the past, so that's a little concerning. I think Hatchett's going to be your center moving forward, and so do you want Sexton, your best guard, out there next to him? Probably, but I also think maybe your best five is Sexton and Tarquin at your tackle. So I don't know, Eddie. It's a tough position. I know that Bill Beatenbow will probably be tinkering with it quite a bit. Could you get Eddie Pierre-Louis in there in some fashion?
He looked good when he came in the late third, early fourth.
It's probably a Caden Green situation. It's going to take him some time for it to click, but at some point you're just going to have to play him. Same with Heath Ozida. I thought we might see more of him tonight. We just didn't. So I'm interested to see what Bill does. And the offense, Seth Luttrell talked about it, Jackson talked about it. They're very vanilla tonight, and I wonder if that was also some of what the offensive line, they leaned on some guys that have played a lot of football tonight and just said, we're just going to run with these guys tonight. I think you're going to see some of these younger guys starting to get into the mix because they just weren't good enough up front with some of those older, more experienced guys tonight.
Jackson Arnold, what did you think of his first career start here on the field behind us on Owen Field? I thought there was some really, really good moments. Obviously, Brent Venables noted after the game, the 4 drops makes maybe that box score not look as good as he played tonight.
I thought he played really well. He didn't put the ball in harm's way. Made some really nice throws that, guys have to catch the ball. You think of the one over the middle to J.J. Hester that, there was no one even near him. That would have been a huge gain. But I also think of the one in the first quarter where he beats his guy. Jackson throws a perfect ball right into his hands that probably could have been a touchdown, and he drops that one. Brennan Thompson had a couple drops as well. It was clear they weren't looking to really push the ball a ton down the field. I also don't think guys were super open down the field. Now, they said after the game that it was a very vanilla offensive game plan. They didn't want to throw the ball down the field. I also think guys just weren't open. Yeah. And so I think that they've got to figure out who some of those guys are. I think they need Andrell to become a more vertical threat. I think they're going to use Deion Burks in some different ways that we didn't see quite yet tonight. But I thought Jackson did really well. And look, I've said it from the start. It's for him. It's not turning the ball over, making the right plays, checking it down when you need to. I thought he was under pressure a few too many times tonight. I think he was sacked 3 times. Had to step up in the pocket a couple times. I thought he played really well, Eddie. I think some people are going to look at that box score, and be like, oh well, he's not that good.
And they're going to look at the total yardage, which you put out. The lowest passing total that Oklahoma's had since Davis Bevel at the Cotton Bowl. I'm sorry to bring it up. Facts are facts, though.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but I think if you watch the game, you understand that, and Jackson even brought it up after the game. They had a lot of short fields tonight, too, and it was clear they were trying to get the running game going, and they finally kind of got it in the fourth quarter, which running back group, I was pretty impressed by. I really like.
That's where I was going to go next.
I like Taylor Tatum. He showed some burst, man. He's definitely a dynamic guy.
We talked to him after the game. You can see all the post-game interviews with the players on Soonerscoop.com's editorial page on YouTube. For a guy that showed up in June to get out here tonight and just relatively look very comfortable running the football, they're going to see better defenses. Obviously, Temple's not a good football team.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it didn't seem like that moment was too big for him.
He's really good in space. Like, that was the big thing for me, is like once he hit that hole, he was really good in space. I think that he's got a chance to really be a contributor. I mean, he got the second carry of the night after Sawchuk. Yeah. So I think that tells you what the staff thinks of him. And I love Javonte Barnes, man. He looked like his old self. I think he maybe has the most explosiveness of that group. Sure. Obviously a physical guy. And then Sam Franklin. Like, he's
out of nowhere.
I mean,
but we talked about him, and he was a guy that Brent talked about. He led the team in, I think, explosive runs during the preseason.
Yep.
There's a lot to like, and they did it without their running backs coach, DeMarco Murray, in the house tonight, obviously serving the one-game suspension. Nick Basquin stepped in. I guess you could call him the interim for the night if you wanted to. The running back group, though, very exciting. Got to get things figured out up front. Two more guys that we want to talk about here on the instant reaction from a 51-3 victory. Oklahoma opens the season. Really three things, but it's more of a comment on the third one. We'll leave that there. Bauer Sharp, big part of the offense. Thought he looked very good tonight.
I think he led the team in receiving yards tonight. I think him and Farouk, actually, ironically, with one catch, Farouk led the team in receiving yards. But yeah, Bauer Sharp is going to be a huge part of this offense. I think he looked like Jackson's kind of security blanket. Yeah. They were 1 for 12 on third downs, but a couple of those were to Bauer Sharp that was very close to converting those third downs. And so that, to me, tells me, okay, Bauer Sharp is kind of that guy. They're going to get him really involved. I thought the first touchdown pass to him was a really nice play. He kind of got himself open there. Jackson with a nice ball to him. But clearly he is going to be a big part of this. He needs to remember to be out on special teams a couple times tonight.
He's out of here every damn snap, it seems like.
I know. A couple times he forgot to be out on the extra point, forgot to be out on a punt. But, yeah, it's clear he's going to be a very dynamic player for them.
Sure.
They want to get him the football. So I thought it was a really good first game for him.
Last but not least, Tyler Keltner made a 50-yarder tonight, made a shorty, I think it was about a 40-something, 42-yarder.
24.
And a 24. I thought he was solid. I mean, this is kind of one of those things. We're not going to come back and say anything bad about these kickers until they do miss one.
I want to see it on the road at Auburn. That's my thing. Tyler Keltner, good job. You did your job tonight.
Sure.
That's what they ask you to do. Let's see it on the road, or even in a Tennessee game that I think is going to be a really tight game. But you love to see it,
sure,
right? From where it was a year ago, that's great. So, I thought that he did a nice job. I thought special teams as a whole was really solid. Jaron Kanek with the play. Lewis Carter just making a great play on that punt return. I thought Peyton Bowen did a nice job at punt return. I think he only really returned one of them, but held on to the football, sure, which is check that off the list. And then they didn't. I don't think they returned any kicks, did they?
No,
so
they didn't. Overall, we'll give it an A+.
Yeah.
Or let's go A-. Why not?
Yeah, I mean,
who knows?
It is what it is. It's Temple, and that's why it's like I know there's going to be a lot of people out there, Eddie, that are freaking out about the offense, and yeah, I get it. But let's just chill the F out for a little bit. The Farouk stuff's bad news. No doubt about it. But I think that I asked Seth Luttrell this tonight. I asked Jackson this. I asked Brent this. Is it just going to take some patience to get this offense clicking? And, they all kind of said yes, but Seth Luttrell said, oh, well, I'm just not a very patient man, so we got to figure it out. I think they can. I think they have some nice pieces. They got to figure out the offensive line. I think that's first and foremost, because I do think they have playmakers at receiver. It might take some time for some of those guys to emerge, especially the young guys, but the offensive line is where that number one concern is for me.
No doubt. Last but not least, I said that earlier, this is more of a comment. I thought just the environment, the fans staying basically through the fourth quarter. Shout out to everybody. It was a beautiful night, obviously, but I thought that was all good. The Walk of Champions moving over to the north side of the building, or to the north side of the stadium. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah.
Like it just seems right for some reason. I don't know why it's so much different than the south side, but just that whole little experience over there on the north side of the stadium, really cool. So fans, You did your work tonight. Oklahoma opens up with a 51-3 win and improves to 1-0. And now you move into week 2. Houston coming to town and a little bit better step up in competition.
Just stay healthy, man. That's the biggest thing. Look, I think Houston will have better athletes. I think they'll be well coached. Willie Fritz is a heck of a football coach. He's going to have that team prepared. They're going to have a lot better quarterback play. I thought Temple's quarterback was one of the worst quarterbacks I've seen at the FBS level. And there's been some bad ones. Yeah. He was horrific. Donovan Smith, I believe, Houston quarterback. He's played a lot of football. He's going to be able to do some more things. Right? Yes, exactly. So I think he's going to be able to do a little bit more. OU should still win that game pretty handily, I think. But for me, it's got to stay healthy, get some of these guys back on the field. You'd love to see a Nick Anderson, Jake Taylor return next week, 2 guys that I think this offense desperately needs right now.
100%. We will be back on Labor Day Monday talking to players. We'll get a recruiting report with Josh McQuistion, who is kind of all over the map. He went and saw Torrey Blaylock last night, the Oklahoma running back commit. You can see Josh's interview with Torrey after the game. Just kind of talking about everything in the recruiting world on the Soonerscoop.com editorial page. Josh will be down to see Owen Hollenbach as well as Omarion Robinson on Saturday afternoon, so we can recap all of that. So I think everybody's in a good spirits tonight. Oklahoma wins by 48. For George, I'm Eddie. We'll see you right back here on the Soonerscoop.com YouTube channel.